Team Hell No and Ryback versus The Shield was the closest to living up to the title TLC of any match on this pay-per-view. Nick, what did you think?
Very surprisingly long match, and there wasn't a lot of boring spots. I mean, they just kept going and going and going nonstop, back and forth. I was so glad that the Shield had, maintained most of the offense, but as soon as this spot happened, I was just completely flabbergasted, and I just shouted in the chat room, why is it that when there are so many tables around the ring that the first one they go for is the Spanish announce table?
It's a pay-per-view cliche. They have to do it.
And I know it's a TLC match. There are tables that can be broken, but why you gotta bother the Spanish announce crew? You have plenty of other tables to go through.
At least it led to the line of the night from JBL when he said, those poor Spanish announcers that's not going their way.
And it really wasn't, because, I mean, they got all shook up earlier in the night, then their announce table gets broken up. They're like, damn, can we just ever have a peaceful night? We show up once a month. And they have to screw with us. Why?
You almost get the feeling they were doing this on purpose to sell the fact that tonight was the first time they've broadcast in English and Spanish on the internet. It's like, here's your reminder that we're available in Spanish. We're fucking with the Spanish announcers all night.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, that's a good point.
How come they always have to have their table break? Like, why? What did the table do to anybody?
It's like the American announce table is like immune to damage most of the time. Unless it's like on a Raw or a SmackDown when there's no secondary table to screw with.
Or unless Triple H decides he wants to pedigree someone.
You know what somebody should do? Especially somebody that has a lot of time on their hand. For a whole year, tally up how many Spanish announce tables be broken.
It'd be at least 12, one for every pay-per-view every month.
I'm just saying, because one of these times they're going to be sitting out there with just steel chairs saying, fuck it, we don't need a table. It's going to go anyway.
They should just break out a card table and set a couple monitors on that and say, this is what you're going to do to us, this is what we're going to do to you. Try to break this.
Something.
Yeah, but to be fair, it's not the only thing that got broken during this match. I mean, they broke the barricade, they broke some tables, they broke some chairs, they broke a bunch of ladders, they broke everything.
Yeah, they even broke out a double superplex from a table off the top rope. That was insane.
I was surprised the match went so long. Because I figured this was going to be so short. I actually saw this main eventing the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing that I liked about it was that as soon as the Shield came out, Team Hell No and Ryback were right on them. They knew that they couldn't give them a chance to get the upper hand, even though eventually they just started to separate them and do the pack mentality thing that they were doing and eliminating each member one by one, even though it came down to them and Ryback ultimately trying to kill each other. And for a second, I thought he killed Seth Rollins when he threw him awkwardly off that ladder into all those chairs, and his head hit that one table that did not break.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of saw he got all the way through the one table, and then his head kind of smacked the other table, and I'm like going, oh God, I hope he didn't get a concussion off of that.
I was surprised that even though he had, Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns were holding him up, I was surprised that he was just was staring. Looking around, because you take a bump like that, you're done. You're not even gonna be looking around. You're gonna be passed out. That's why I was like, oh my God, that kid took a hell of a bump right there.
Well, that's what told me he was okay, was that he could still focus his eyes and see straight, because when you're watching UFC and somebody gets knocked the hell out, and they stand back up after they get knocked out, they can't see straight. They're stumbling around. They're all glassy-eyed. And the fact that he could look with clear vision told me it looked bad, but it wasn't as bad as it looked.
Yeah, and he got up, obviously he was being helped up by the other two, but he had a smile on his face. He's looking around. And Stevie, I know exactly what you're talking about. I've seen some of those fighters get up and you could see their lips ask, what happened? And at least with Seth Rollins, he was very lucid enough to know where he was.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
that bump reminded me of when Jeff Hardy went through that table, years ago. I was just like, oh my God, if this kid's not knocked out.
Yeah. But
No, I will
overall,
say,
I enjoyed this match.
Yeah, I'm
yeah,
glad the
and,
Shield won.
and I'm glad it wasn't Ryback who took the pin. Not that I'm saying Daniel Bryan deserved to be the guy who got jobbed in this,
Mm-mm.
but Ryback needed to be kept somewhat strong. And if he had
Yeah.
been the one who was pinned here, that would have been 3 straight pay-per-views where he got pinned.
Yeah, it actually kept him strong and it kept him safe, but it also, because, a lot of fans are going to look at this like, well, what does that say about Daniel Bryan that he ate the pin? He still came out strong. It was not like where he just got beat up the entire match and they just pinned him. He, fought his battle throughout the match, but then towards the end, he couldn't last.
Yeah.
So all of them came out strong in the match. I was just glad that they didn't make Ryback eat the pin, especially after he's going after the championship and he's on this big push.
Yeah,
And the thing I
if
like about the finish too, sorry Nick, I'll just go ahead real quick. The thing I like about the finish is that they sold the idea that Ryback could have saved the match, but he was so far up the ramp that he couldn't get there in time and he was just 1 second too late. So it made Ryback look like a beast. Like, he's still standing after all this. He's not hurt. He could have won this match. He was just a little too late to get there.
Yeah, and it was really smart how they did it because, of course, Kane and Ryback are the biggest out of this tag team. You got to get both those guys out of the equation so you can have Daniel Bryan to yourselves. And, Kane's over here and Ryback's all the way up the ramp. And, Daniel Bryan, he's cut off from both of them. It played off really smart and it came off really well because that's how you do it.
And I did like the visual of them just piling up every piece of junk they could find on Kane. The barricade, the announce table, the chairs, the ladders, just anything that was not nailed down, they just piled it up on him in a big heap.
I
It was
would
like,
too.
no, you're not getting up. You're not getting up. Stay. Like he was a bad dog. They're like, you're staying right there.